We're live just in our Facebook group. So for everybody to get a good view of what we were working on last week, maybe I'll give you guys a quick update. So working here with Greg on his CRM. For anybody that didn't see what we got into last week, we made some discoveries with Greg that he has, in fact, a good CRM called Service Fusion, but his team has stopped using it. So it's more of a very expensive dispatch tool now, which is something that I see all the time. Actually, just about everybody that comes to me with CRM issues has made the critical error, and they've let their team move to spreadsheets. As soon as that happens, so anybody using a CRM or any other tool that's supposed to help you manage your business or your customers, and you have rogue spreadsheets, that is a big indicator that the system's not being used or utilized properly. So in the conversation with Greg, we talked about kind of the importance, and I think I've gotten across to him this week on just how important a CRM is, especially for a service-based company that's dealing with customers repeatedly and throughout. And the importance of follow-up, right, Greg? How important is follow-up?
Yeah,
How important
definitely.
is client journey now that you can see it from another perspective, and having clarity on what you have in your pipeline versus what's closed, and what's being disorganized with this is leaving a lot of opportunity. But you can also, and we had this experience with his CR. Is his CR, what are they called? CR, your customer service person.
Oh, CSR.
CSR. Yeah. So a CSR, watching them go through hundreds of clients on a spreadsheet, and then finding a lot of errors in the spreadsheet that was, again, giving us bad information, having us following up on people that were done and complete. So you can imagine it was quite the experience going through it. And it reminds me of just how important CRMs are, right? How important, the simple processes that work, and the way that, we have to build our system to really suit the people that are going to be operating them. So Greg, tell me, why did you guys, what is your, when you get into Service Fusion, I know that you were really you liked a lot of the features, but what prompted you guys to stop using it for the estimating and all of the features that it offers?
It was probably a combination of a couple things. The way we'd done it in the past.
Okay.
And then because there's sort of a history there of doing it a certain way, and that seemed to have worked in the past, but then it has its limits. And then you're trying to do a new program, and it's solving part of your problems is solving the organizational part of your crews and recording their time, but to try to make it do the other components was difficult to piece in there. And the learning curve to do that would be the other challenge of it. And then the thing is, I'm having all these separate things, and it seems like I'm doing way too much double entry.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I was a Service Fusion user, great CRM, but it's not easy, is what I'll say. It's not an easy CRM to really get up and run. And the problem with these CRMs is they're really project management systems, right? They're very robust in terms of tracking materials and tracking purchase orders and, dispatching, and they have lots of bells and whistles, I'm going to call it. You can run your, GPS tracking. You can see where your trucks are. It does serve the clients very well. From when we used it, they would get notified. It had some text messaging features, but where it really falls down, and where I think that there's a big gap in understanding, is not in fact a CRM. All right, a CRM is really managing the entire customer experience, and that also includes where they start early in the marketing funnel. Okay, so why I consistently bring it up as it's the focus of it is more to manage projects, right? It does have some CRM like features, but when we compare it apples to apples to like Contractor AI in terms of the automations and like the ability to build, landing pages and, add payments and all these other features that really involve the client experience, right? How quickly we can get back from the speed to lead, all of those things start to really add up. And especially when you're really busy or not busy, right? So, I mean, again, when you have a slowdown, all of a sudden these things really matter. Getting back to a client 15, 20 minutes later might mean that they've already found somebody to do the work, right? So when it comes to CRMs or any tool really, the cautionary tale here I think is number one is know the software that you're going to work with. Make sure that you're aligned with somebody or a company that's going to help you get it up and running, because if you could go back in time, most of these CRMs just give you it and they're like, hey, you're on your own, here's a massive library of things you need to do, right? And then just all it takes is one thing not to work or not to get implemented properly or somebody not to use it. And then bang, we're back to our spreadsheets. And we've just got another fragmented piece, right? So now you've got, instead of one piece of software to do the whole thing, you're using it for like a hybrid management system now, right? It does, like, we're never fully utilizing all the features in it. Does that make sense? Right?
Pretty much so.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Again, the other thing that I think was a moment that we both shared here was just realizing, and I know it was for me especially, is just the clarity, right? You can spend a lot of time not remembering customers, not knowing where they go in terms of the position or the order. So for example, we got a list from Greg to follow up with some clients, and in his spreadsheet, it's the person using it knows what everything means. But to me, and I do pride myself on, being pretty good at figuring these things out, I missed the important part that, some customers had already been sold, some jobs had actually already been done, right? So here we go, we start to contact some of these people, and just not knowing the position that they were in. And then while going through that, we figure out that we weren't even sure if some of them had gone or not. We had to, cross check and back check. So to find out how many customers were actually in his pipeline, it took a whole, three of us, over an hour to just try and figure out for the last couple of weeks of follow-up, right? So going forward now, maybe I'll just share with everybody, but you can see it's a little bit cleaner. I should bring up the spreadsheet and show them. The spreadsheet was overwhelming. When I first got it, it was just all mashed together. I couldn't make heads or tails of anything. But basically, the way that this works is we want to make it as simple and as easy as possible. So we know who we have in follow-up, right? We know any new leads coming in. So off forms, off of offers that we're running, it could be social media campaigns that they've come in through. We want it all to go to one location, right? And that can include if you're doing organic outreach, if you're, booking calls in social media. We've got this all set up for Greg. And then after hours, even the AI will jump on and book a phone call so that no opportunities get missed. So the way that we organize this, and it's in the playbook that we're running, is basically all the new leads, ones that have not been touched, nobody's contacted them yet. The ones that we're probably going to get to the quickest, down to hot leads. So hot leads are somebody that has qualified. It's a marketing qualified, sales qualified lead. We've given them a price. Maybe they're, again, we just need to follow up and get a deal closed or a credit card. And then we have our warm leads. Those are people that have expressed interest. Maybe we've got them a quote. It's still very early in the sales decision-making process. We're going to follow up on them just a little bit less frequent, and it may be a little bit older of a lead. Again, we're going to go through the playbook that we built for Greg to show exactly where and when, because you can have all this stuff in front of you, but the person that's actually operating it needs to know exactly, how things work, where the clients belong, to be able to, provide the client journey and the experience that you're trying to create with your business. So the last one is cold leads. These are leads that have surpassed our standard follow-up. But we've had contact with them, right? They're still interested. They haven't said no, they haven't said yes. And really, we're trying to get everybody moved through here, either into a scheduled or a follow-up or lost. And I know that sounds counterproductive, but for Greg's situation, a lot of his clients, what I'm finding is maybe they didn't sell because he does a lot of B2B, B2B for services. And a lot of customers see him through other companies and stuff too. So they might be hitting the pipeline. And he has a lot of actual service, so B2C, right? So we have to organize that in two different flows because there's a different follow-up process that gets followed. So this one was for B2C, ones that we went out to do quotes for. We started off with 56 follow-ups for the last month or so that we've received. And then we basically had to go through and organize them. So we have these ones in follow-up. We can see, what the dollar value is of people that are still we've reached out to, but they haven't got back to us to respond to us. We're basically, just checking in with them to make sure that, they know that we're available. We also are going to do some nurturing, add some value, answer any questions. And the sequence that we're following here, I'll just share this with you. Oh, I'm going to screw this up. Bear with me one sec. Yes. By the way, anybody that's actually watching, this is our playbook. If you're interested, this is our CRM playbook that we're giving to anybody that's interested. And it just goes through all the everything we've done with Greg, more or less, all the important parts of building a CRM and having a good, clear plan. So this is really where having a good understanding, because the CRM is great, right? But we also have to train people on it, and everyone has to understand the process, right? How do we qualify a lead? What's the script? So there's a combination of hard, the software, the tool, and then there's also the soft skills, right? And it can be as little as how you greet someone on the phone, what gets said, what qualifies somebody to go into a certain pipeline. Very, very critical that you're at least reviewing these a couple times a year with your team, and that everybody understands the process. Now, the other really important thing that we uncovered with Greg is, and I think it's really important to bring up, is with the spreadsheet method, if Greg or his staff got sick, who's going to run the system? The only two of them know how to actually move those clients through. And even in there's people that were, not properly organized, but this leaves a big problem. Like if his staff member had gotten sick and heaven forbid couldn't, come to work for a couple of weeks, it would put a lot more pressure on your sales. And I'm sure a lot of customers would fall through the cracks, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So what we've done here now is, because it's web-based, it's actually going to allow us to add some support in case of an emergency, in case somebody's sick. We're able to jump in and very quickly get up to speed. So this is why we always run plays with the CRM, because the CRM is just a tool, right? Just like anything, you can have the best tool out there in the world. If you don't know how to use it, it's useless, right? So we want to make sure that we've got, some contingencies built in here, and then everyone really understands the flow. So what happens after an appointment is scheduled, right? And, where did they come into the, where do they come into the follow-up process? So this is an example of one that maybe didn't get scheduled, right? So when do we call? When do we email? What do we text? And it's really important that we discuss those things and actually look at that experience, surveying our clients as well, getting those customer satisfaction surveys, which is built into the CRMs nowadays. We built them in, and we'll get to the referral and review that Greg uses, especially for anyone doing services. Super, super important. And we've got a lot more customers, because the way that most good service companies work is they count on those repeat customers. Greg, especially, I mean, most of your customers are repeat, right? So you're doing business, lifetime value is very high, right? But all it takes is one bad experience during, a transaction to send that lifetime valued customer to a competitor, right? So I know I just told you the story, Greg, but I'm going to say it anyways. I'm going to go one more time. You have to hear my hairdresser story. So I give you this example. By not systemizing the client journey and not having a good CRM up front, all right, it's equivalent to this. let's say you find a really good barber in town. The first time you go to the barber, he does everything. He, shaves your beard, really takes care of you, gives you a hot towel, like, treats you like a king, gets you in right away, and you feel great after leaving it, right? You're like, this guy's the best. I'm going to go back there for every time now. The next time you go in, all right, it's okay. All right. Doesn't do the hot towel, still, greets you really warmly. Gives you a shave, but it could have been better. It wasn't like the first time, right? You're really gonna, kind of be a little bit disappointed, but you might go back again. The third time you go back, it's just like it's just the other place. It's just an average haircut. He didn't do the towel, that wasn't as warm, just, wasn't a real flow in conversation or anything. How many of us would go back the fourth time? Not too many, right? So think about this as how you're delivering to your clients. Now, with that said, the other side to look at it is, what if the barber had just given him a decent haircut, decent experience, nothing spectacular, nothing, over the top, and just really focused on, delivering the same product and service, or the same service, I should say, repeatedly. So let's say you go the first time, it's exactly like the second time is exactly like the third time. Are you going to go back the fourth time? Of course. Of course. And in fact, you're not really going to look for an extraordinary haircut. And I see that a lot with service-based business, electricians, plumbers, stuff like that. It's the guys that are really winning the game are the ones that are very, very consistent with their clients. They're the ones that have, certain parts that the client just becomes accustomed to. And just, that's their go-to person. That's just who they call. And you're retaining those clients for a long period of time, right? Now, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of your repeat clients that they're buying, a lot of these services over and over again, you probably won them because they had a bad experience with another electrician, right?
Yeah, they needed good people, a better
right.
product.
So a lot of the times we don't really consider these things, right? So like what allows a business to scale and grow and actually have value to be sold at the end of the day, right? Like, again, it's that repeat business, it's that consistency, it's, the MRR, being able to, engage and have a system where you can, organically pull in business. This is what a CRM can do. If you are aligning that with really good understanding of who that client is, how we can serve them, and, what's just enough and just right, that it consistently delivers the same results. Okay. So, we don't want to lose a client over a CRM. Let's say, Cindy wasn't in for 2 days and never called the client back. It got lost on the spreadsheet, calls them back 3 or 4 days later. Is that going to open the door for another electrician to come in and service them and then take that client from you? It's the way it works, right?
Highly possible.
Right. So again, we're not going to let that happen anymore. We're going to really focus on, the delivery of the client journey from start to finish. And again, whether they're repeat, new, it doesn't matter. Everybody should have a consistency to how they're served. And it's our understanding, and this is where systems and people really get in sync. If I want to, leave a mint on my customer's pillow after I finish their electrical, like, that's great. All right. But there's got to be a system or a process that the whole team knows that's what we do, right? The way we greet them, the way we put our booties on, all those things that, go into giving somebody a really great experience. All right. Not done consistently will have the opposite effect. Like I said, you can actually lose a client because you did so well the first time and then didn't continue to give that service. They're going to feel mistrust towards you. Right. And I don't think a lot of guys really understand that. Like, they're not buying for your service. Like, no one really gets up in the morning and goes, yes, I'm going to buy some electrical work today. No one's really excited about it, are they? No. Right. So, but it's something that it's a must have. It's a necessity to, like, I mean, it creates, fear, concerns, all those things. So, in delivering that to them, what would you say the biggest thing that Greg Electric delivers to these clients to have them continuously come back? What do you think it is?
The reliability that, when they call, you're going to show up and you're going to deliver and solve the problem for them,
Mhm.
and they don't have to worry about it anymore.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that's peace of mind. You're selling peace of mind.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Mhm.
So let's play some scenarios here. So it's great. Everything's good when you have 100 clients. You can keep that up, and it doesn't take a lot of tech. You don't need the big CRMs or anything. You can get by the spreadsheet. But what if we did such a good job with them just consistently, and you grew by 3 to 4 customers every month? Or we, ran a really great campaign, and all of a sudden you brought in 100 in a month. Do you think that the system that you had would be able to take that overflow? Or could you even ask for help? Right? Think about it. Like, how would you ask for help if let's say we had a big storm, and all of a sudden, electricians are highly in demand? Would your system be able to support that, or would you guys come apart at the seams?
You'd be bogged down, and you couldn't handle it
Right.
because you don't have good enough system.
Right. So, I mean, again, I'm a big fan of CRMs. I'm a bigger fan of project management systems. But here's a couple of really key things that we have to consider, especially for the service electricians, the service plumbers, anybody that's doing home service related work. The key to being successful with it, because we know, and it's a numbers game. So, and I think we talked about this last week, but to buy an ad for electrical service work, right, where you're offering a $49.99 inspection, okay? Well, you're going to actually lose money by driving out there for that $49.99. And I learned this from Greg's business. It's not what companies are counting on. They're buying the customer and assuming the lifetime value of that customer, right? So they have to be so on point with delivering the experience, even though in a lot of cases they're in a negative, or very low, like they're, again, they're not clearing a lot of profit. What they're going to count on and what they're going to optimize on is additional services, right? Planned services, contracts, and the lifetime value of that customer coming back to them. And if you're really smart and you're really on top of this, you're going to position yourself to ask for a referral, and your system, your CRM, is going to follow up on that ask. Now imagine that every time we went out to a job, we got a 5-star Google review, and then we politely and appropriately asked for a referral and incentivized that client to recommend anybody else that can consider that. Now, the fun thing about that is it works well in B2B, right? So again, you're in somebody's home, you've delivered a great service. I mean, it's universal. It also works B2C very, very well. Like that's what it was originally for. But we're finding more and more that, especially with the downturn in the economy, we are loving real estate agents because they've all become, little salespeople for us, and they're really picking up on these incentives. And again, you can run a lot of very good offers right now. People are open to, generating an affiliate, income. And again, I'm seeing more and more really clever systems, and I think we've got a really good one that we're implementing with Greg, where asking for it, all right, is a micro offer in itself, right? So offering a micro offer and getting a smaller commitment out of somebody, all right, at the appropriate time is going to lead to more business being generated from one lead call, right? So the best way I can kind of explain and wrap up what I'm saying here is, imagine that every lead that you got off Google cost you $200, but you could only charge $50 to go to the first initial visit. Well, how could anybody possibly afford to do that? And the truth is, most companies, most the really well marketed companies know that that's happening, right? And we've seen it in your market. Like they're paying $400. There's no way for a call out you're getting $400, is there? Right? But they're buying that keyword for $400. Well, how can they do that? And it's simply this, all right, is that they've mastered the client journey. They've mastered optimizing the ticket sale, getting the additional service, doing the inspections, really, winning the trust of the client and making a strong enough impression on them that they're obligated. They feel obligated to recommend you and your service, right? And again, it's part branding, and they're also, again, they're investing in that relationship. They're buying the relationship is what they're doing. right? And they know if they get to them first, people, what would you say? You need an electrician. I've called electrician 4 times in the last year. Like how many clients do you have that you've had relationships for 20 years? They call you out a couple times. Like how many of those,
Mm-hmm.
like, right? Now, this is another way that we're going to focus with Greg in his CRM is those clients have been very loyal, all right, and have been repeat customers. Should we be treating them the same and approaching them the same as the guy that we just met? No,
No.
right? So would it be appropriate to reach out to them, on Christmas and birthdays? And again, a CRM, like there's no way you can possibly remember thousands of clients' information, but a CRM is going to add those touches once the data is in there to actually reach back to them. Like, a customer that's done, 20 projects with you, getting that, birthday card or a Merry Christmas. And it can be simple, just at Christmas time, you send them a text, right? You send them a postcard. That's going to go a very long way in retaining the client. So we don't talk a lot about that, how CRMs, a lot of people think CRMs are, one shot and done, right? They don't really look at what's in the back end of their CRM, right? Going back to clients, old leads, you've already bought that relationship. You've already paid for that, right? You've already, again, it's much easier to sell the people that are warm to you, they know, like, and trust you, than it is to sell somebody completely cold. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So how do you nurture that relationship? Because again, if we, did that, a customer called us 3 times, 4 times, right? They came out, they got a okay experience, and then, maybe they didn't need work for another 2 years. Would they remember you? Maybe, maybe not. 3 years goes by, 4 years goes by. Oh, who was that guy again? I thought I put his magnet on the fridge, but and they'll just call someone else. But if we stay in touch with them and we're clever about it and we, reach out at the appropriate times with the appropriate micro offers, we don't want to be spammy or annoying. And this is what we're really, again, trying to take it to the next level with Greg is understanding, what isn't a good micro offer? What's something that we can offer that doesn't feel like we're soliciting them or that we're begging for work, right? So one of those offers, and if it's okay with you, I'll share it, that we're considering working with is he works a lot with project managers, right? He's got a lot of they're called stratas, correct? Right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the best people to build a relationship. They're gatekeepers to a lot of work, right? They get a lot of requests. So the way that we build our relationships with them, all right, is purely an indicator of how much work they give us, right? Now it's not their work and we should be, incorporating that, but we want to nurture that relationship. How do we approach them, or how do we approach somebody that is under contract with another electrician and don't come across like every other electrician looking for that work? So one of those solutions that that we are looking to incorporate with Greg is the incentivized lead, giving them an agreed upon, not like a dirty envelope, brown envelope deal or anything shady, but we are going to present them our VIP offer, our we'll call it a nuclear offer, where it's not coming to them to solicit them for work. No, we're going to say, hey, we'd like to team up with you. All right. We'd like to, we have this VIP program. It gives you, top of the line service. So like if there's ever, catastrophe or anything, we're going to service you first. Right. So it's going to give you an advantage on call-ins. We're also going to be a resource. If any of your clients have an electrical issue or think they have one, they can call our hotline. We'll be 24/7 or a text line, and we'll respond to that electrical issue so that you don't have to. Sometimes you don't need to call out an electrician, right? It might be just a troubleshooting text that can get it resolved if someone's blown a breaker. But you're going to offer that because that takes something off of their plate. And nobody wants to deal with that. So again, if you're going into these, these, and out there, you guys have a lot of them, all the condo corps and stuff like that. Well, they have issues pretty consistently, especially the older ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the big prize is to get the inspections and to do the rewires and the big breakers. But, up to that point, you have to maintain them and service them. Do you not?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, in that situation, that kind of work everybody's going for, right? Like every electrician's like, hey, I'll just call up all the strata. I wonder how many times they get solicited, just full out, like, I'm an electrician, give me work. I wonder how often that happens. And we certainly seen it. We had the pleasure of, like, again, working with Greg and making these, these outreaches. And it was pretty, again, it was pretty cold because you can tell that they get a lot of people asking for business, where we're going to flip it now and we're going to invite them to an opportunity versus, give me an opportunity. How I have this opportunity for you, right? I could recommend you and you could recommend me. So again, we're really, building that relationship. We're going to give them an incentive to use our services. We're also going to reinforce, and again, by positioning it as something that benefits them versus I can service you and give me work, right? Because who's that serving? And if they already have an electrician, why would you be any different than the guy that they has? How could you differentiate yourself there, right? Now, with that said, why don't a lot of electricians already have these programs? The smart ones do. Okay, I'll tell you, it's purely because it's a relationship that now has to be nurtured. You have to have a plan, because when you start to run these deals with them, and you've got to be organized, you got to be able to track it, stop paying a commission or stop paying something and see how quickly, now you've become the bad barber, right? Oh, the first time I got my incentive, but the next time I didn't. They're not going to use you again, right? Just for that one thing, because you made a promise or you made an offer you couldn't deliver. With the CRMs, that is easy it'll never get missed. It's notified. Nobody, there's no issue. So they can count on that. And just by incorporating that, now you've built a relationship that's meaningful with somebody that's going to give you a lot of lifetime work, right? And you've differentiated yourself in the market where everybody else is very, again, active. And like, we could tell just how many times they get solicited. Like, when you have to approach somebody 5, 6, 7 times, and they're just like, I've had like 3 of these messages this week. And you're just like, oh, okay, I got you. Right. Like, you have to come up with some different ways to approach them, because they are just that. I mean, it's a big market. There's a lot of money moving around in these stratas, and like, again, there are a lot of condo corps, I would say, higher than normal. You could re-rate on the coast there, right? So a lot of vacation homes, a lot of higher end luxury places. So again, if I was a electrical firm, I'm going to be going after them nonstop too, right? I'm going to be finding ways to kind of build a relationship. So this is a way to get it in the door, but it's also an offer you can stand behind. And that's the important part right there, because your normal electrician is not going to have the capability to actually make an offer like that, right? They won't have and again, the worst thing that could happen is that they do offer it and then they grow and now they can't support it. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, just to kind of come back down to what we were discussing, one thing that I found that's very helpful that we're doing for Greg is making sure that everything is documented. It's clear, like just like a maintenance manual, right? If our maintenance manual is all over the place, right, and we've got to fix something, what's going to happen, right? We want to think about that the same way. A CRM without a manual or an operator's manual and a good plan for training multiple people. It shouldn't be just one. Right? It can't be just one, because if only one person can operate that system, you're putting yourself at a very large risk. And we don't want to ever put our businesses at risk. So we have training. We're going to support Greg on that. And we make the system much simpler, right? The fact that we can customize. Does Greg really need all the bells and whistles? So the funny part about it is, Greg, you got Service Fusion, and you were probably attracted to all this crazy stuff it can do. I remember you telling me, oh, I can put the book in, I can, I can do service callie, I can do all these things. And I remember you're really excited about it. Now, looking back, would you say that was more of a shiny object, falling for the shiny object? Because when I come back and we chat a year later, you don't use the estimating, like the biggest features it has. You're just like, it's just too much time, or I didn't get it right. So again, what we're going to do is really get back to, okay, that might work for one company. Like Service Fusion might be the be all end all. If you've got really like, tech savvy, you got people that are, and you got, a different style of business. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, because it definitely does. It worked for us for a long time. But did you need all those features? No. You didn't even use them. You bought it for them, you paid for them, but you probably didn't you didn't use any of those, right? You never got to that point. So when I look at CRMs, I'm like, let's produce the bare minimum product. Like I said, I don't want multiple dashboards. I don't want to come up with ideas that aren't necessary yet. We'll implement something, get it working, and then we'll scale it up from there, right? Then we'll add to it. But until that main core deliverable or main core product is simple enough that we can get even Cindy to come in and go, oh, I get that, right? I get that. I understand that. And it matches everything. Then I have a scalable CRM. I have something that is going to be adapted easily by the team. It doesn't have a huge learning curve to it, right? Because those changes in your business cost you a fortune, and it very rarely work out if, again, there's not a serious planned objective behind it, right? So just buying a CRM off the shelf, I've made the mistake. Greg, you've made it. I've made it 3 times. I've been through 3 full CRMs, one custom built, one one that they discontinued, Service Fusion, and then finally had my medicine, and now I just work the one CRM.
You got my spreadsheet open.
Right. So would you say, Greg, just looking at this from what we've organized today, would you say that this is a lot easier to see and to visualize?
It's nice to have it all in one place.
Right, for sure. And we wanted to get to 100. I'm gonna brag. I told you I would. We wanted to get to 100K. We got to 70K of sold work that was in the pipeline that was unknown. Now, I don't know if we sold it all. We did follow up on every one of them. Some of them had already been done, but again, when we're looking at the spreadsheet, there was 0 chance to know who was really actually sold into the pipeline. And now we know that every single lead has been followed up, and we're going to now increase the return on our investment for any ad spend that we've had. So again, I can put it to you simply as that. Imagine you paid $400 for every one of these leads. Okay. But you never followed up. You're basically leaving 3 of the 4 leads that you've generated, all right, on the table. Only going for that one that's ready to close right now. No wonder people are always looking for leads. What if we just maximized and closed more of the leads that we got our closing ratios into a predictable state, which I was very surprised. Greg has an excellent closing ratio. He's closing a high number of them, but a week ago, I couldn't tell that. I would have been a couple hours in your spreadsheets trying to figure it out, right? Now we can. And we can also detect things much earlier. So using a dashboard, we're able to see a lot more in terms of patterns. I'm not going to show your dashboard or anything, but and then, all of the conversations being in one single place. So we're on the good track. We're going to keep building this up over the next few weeks. And I'm really excited to see what our results are as we get this project wrapped up. Cool.
Thanks.
All right.